I stood in the hallway outside my childhood bedroom holding a single cupcake with a gas station candle stuck in the center. 16 years old. Downstairs, I could hear the remnants of Cassie's party still echoing through the house. Laughter. Music turned low. My mother's voice thanking the event coordinator. My sister had turned 16 3 months ago. The celebration had lasted an entire weekend. Today was my birthday. They forgot. Not in the chaotic, apologetic way people forget when life gets overwhelming. In the silent, complete way that reveals exactly where you stand. I lit the candle with a cheap lighter I'd bought at the same gas station. Made a wish I knew wouldn't come true. And blew it out alone. That moment didn't break me. It clarified me. 22 years later, my phone buzzed during a Tuesday afternoon meeting. Mom's name flashed across the screen. I let it go to voicemail. She called again an hour later. Then my father. Then Cassie. All within the span of 3 hours, a frequency of contact I hadn't experienced in years. When I finally listened to the first message, my mother's voice was strained, artificial. Iris, sweetheart, we need to talk about the arrangements. Your father and I have been looking at facilities and honestly, the costs are astronomical. We were hoping you could help us figure out the financial side of things. Call me back. I deleted it. Played the next one. My father, more direct. Iris, your mother's health is declining. We need to discuss long-term care options and frankly, we need your help. You've always been the responsible one. Call us. The responsible one. Their code for the one they could rely on to clean up messes they created. Cassie's message was shorter, more desperate. Mom and Dad are freaking out about money. They think you're going to help. Are you? I set my phone face down on my desk and stared out the window of my downtown office. The city stretched below me, a testament to everything I'd built without them. Without their support. Without their money. Without their presence. The memory of that 16th birthday wasn't my first disappointment. It was just the clearest one. The pattern had been there my entire life, woven so tightly into our family dynamic that I'd mistaken it for normalcy. Cassie's 8th birthday had been a spectacle. Rented venue, professional entertainers, a custom cake that looked like a castle. Photographers captured every moment for the family album. My 8th birthday came 4 months later. Boxed cake from the grocery store. No guests. We're still recovering from Cassie's party, Mom explained, not even looking up from her magazine. You understand, don't you? You're such a good girl. I understood. I understood that being good meant accepting less. When Cassie made the varsity soccer team her freshman year, my parents bought her new cleats, paid for private coaching, drove her to every game. When I made honor roll that same semester, my mother said, "That's nice, dear," without lifting her eyes from Cassie's tournament schedule. Cassie got a car for her 16th birthday. Not just any car. A brand new Honda CR-V with custom seat covers and a premium sound system. The party had been elaborate, themed, catered. $15,000 I later discovered, though they never discussed money in front of me. 3 months later, my 16th birthday arrived on a Wednesday. I'd dropped hints for weeks, not expecting a car, but hoping for something. Acknowledgement. Dinner out. Maybe a cake with my name on it. I woke up that morning to silence. No balloons. No wrapped presents on the kitchen table. My mother was on the phone with the caterer discussing Cassie's upcoming fundraiser. My father had already left for work. Cassie was still asleep. Morning, I said quietly, pouring cereal. Mom covered the phone receiver. Morning, don't forget to take the trash out before school. That was it. I waited all day for someone to remember. In homeroom. During lunch. After soccer practice. I came home expecting a surprise, some delayed acknowledgement that they'd been planning something. The house was chaos. Cassie's fundraiser was that weekend, and Mom was in full event planning mode. I stood in the kitchen doorway watching her arrange flower samples while on a conference call. Mom, I said softly. She held up one finger. I waited. 20 minutes later, she finally hung up. What do you need? Not how was your day, or everything okay? What do you need? Nothing, I said. I walked upstairs, grabbed my wallet, and drove to the gas station 3 blocks away. Bought a single chocolate cupcake and a candle. Drove back home. Went to my room. And celebrated alone. The next morning, Cassie was the first to remember. Oh my God, was yesterday your birthday? She said it over breakfast, loud enough for my parents to hear. My mother's fork paused midair. What? Iris's birthday, Cassie repeated. It was yesterday, wasn't it? Mom's face shifted through several expressions, confusion, realization, then something that looked rehearsed. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. With everything going on, it completely slipped my mind. We'll celebrate this weekend. My father lowered his newspaper. We forgot? Not we're sorry. Just we forgot, like it was a minor inconvenience. It's fine, I said, because that's what I always said. That weekend came and went. No celebration. No mention of it again. Life moved forward, and I learned the lesson they'd been teaching me all along. I wasn't a priority. Cassie's needs, Cassie's events, Cassie's life took precedence. I was expected to understand, to be mature, to not make waves. So I stopped making waves. I stopped expecting. I started planning. College became my escape route. I worked 2 jobs through high school, saved every dollar. Applied to schools far enough away that just coming home for the weekend wouldn't be an option. When I got my acceptance letter to Boston University with a partial scholarship, I told them over dinner. Cassie was in the middle of talking about prom. That's great, honey, Dad said, barely glancing up. Mom nodded. Boston is expensive. Make sure you figure out the finances before you commit. No congratulations. No pride. Just concern about money they had no intention of contributing. Cassie got into a local state school 2 years later. They threw her a graduation party, bought her a laptop, paid her tuition in full, and helped her furnish a dorm room. I'd already been in Boston for 2 years by then, working 30 hours a week while taking a full course load. Nobody asked how I was managing. They assumed I was fine. The responsible one always is. My 20s were a blur of work, school, and building a life they never witnessed. I graduated with honors. No one came to the ceremony. Boston is so far, Mom said when I called to tell them the date. And Cassie has that big project due, we just can't make it work. I walked across that stage alone. Smiled for the photographer. Went to dinner with friends who celebrated me in ways my family never had. I got my first real job at a financial consulting firm. Worked my way up. Earned promotions. Built a reputation. At 28, I bought my first condo. I called to share the news. That's wonderful, Iris, Mom said. Actually, since you're doing so well, we were hoping you could help Cassie with her security deposit. She found an apartment, but she's a little short. Not, we're proud of you. Not, can we come see it? Just an immediate request for money. I'll think about it, I said. I didn't help. That was the first time I'd ever said no. The guilt lasted for weeks, but something in me had shifted. Years of therapy had helped me name what I'd always felt but couldn't articulate. Emotional neglect. Parentification. Favoritism that wasn't just preference but systematic erasure of my needs. My therapist asked me once, if you were to stop reaching out, how long do you think it would take them to contact you? I didn't reach out for 3 months. They called once, on Christmas, and spent 15 minutes talking about Cassie's new boyfriend before asking how I was. Fine, I said. That seemed to satisfy them. At 32, I met David. He was kind, attentive, present. Everything my family had never been. When I told them we were engaged, there was a pause on the line. That's sudden, Mom said. Have we even met him? No, I answered honestly. because I'd stopped bringing my life to them years ago. Well, I'm sure we'll meet him at the wedding, she continued. When are you thinking? Small ceremony, probably next spring. That single syllable carried disappointment. Not that I was getting married, but that it wouldn't be a spectacle. Cassie's been talking about getting engaged too, Mom added. You know how she loves big events. Maybe you two could do something together? A joint celebration? No, I said firmly. This is separate. I planned a simple wedding. 50 guests, close friends, David's family. I sent my parents and Cassie invitations with all the details. They RSVP'd yes. The week before the wedding, Mom called. I'm so sorry, honey, but Cassie's having a crisis. She and her boyfriend broke up and she's devastated. I don't think we can make it. You understand, right? I understood perfectly. Sure, I said. I hung up. I didn't cry. I'd stopped crying over them years ago. David's parents filled the seats where mine should have been. His mother hugged me before I walked down the aisle and whispered, "We're so lucky to have you." It was the first time I felt chosen. The years after my wedding were peaceful. David and I built a life. I kept my distance from my family, responding politely but infrequently. I sent cards on birthdays and holidays. Short. Impersonal. They never seemed to notice the shift. Or if they did, they didn't care enough to address it. Then, at 38, the calls started. Mom and Dad were getting older. Dad had diabetes poorly managed. Mom's arthritis was worsening. Cassie, now 35, had never quite figured out financial stability. She'd worked various jobs, none lasting long, always bailed out by our parents. The first mention of future planning came during a rare phone call. Your father and I have been talking, Mom said. We're not getting any younger, we need to think about long-term care. Okay, I said carefully. Have you looked into options? Yes, but they're expensive. We were hoping you could help. You're good with finances. There it was. The ask. Help how? Well, contribute. We figured you and Cassie could split the costs. I almost laughed. Cassie doesn't have any money. Which is why we need you to cover more of it. You're doing so well, Iris. The responsible one. I'll think about it, I said. I didn't think about it. I knew my answer. The calls increased over the next 2 years. Dad's health declined. He needed medications, monitoring, eventually more intensive care. Mom's mobility decreased. They couldn't maintain the house anymore. Cassie called me crying one night. They need help, Iris, real help. We have to put them somewhere safe. Then do it, I said. I can't afford it, you know I can't. That's not my problem. The words came out colder than I intended, but they were true. How can you say that? They're our parents. Are they? I asked quietly. She didn't respond. A month later, they started touring assisted living facilities. Nice ones with gardens, activities, private rooms. Expensive ones. $4,500 a month. They couldn't afford it. Their retirement savings had been drained over the years by poor financial decisions and bailing out Cassie repeatedly. They'd refinanced the house twice. There was no cushion, no plan. They'd expected, assumed, that I would fill the gap. The voicemails became more desperate. Iris, we need to talk. Iris, please call back. Iris, this is urgent. I listened to each one. Deleted them. Finally, Dad called my office directly. My assistant patched him through before I could stop her. Iris, his voice was weaker than I remembered. We need to discuss your mother's care. I'm at work, Dad. This is important. So is my job. Your mother needs full-time care. We found a place, but we need help with the payments. I'm not paying for it. Silence. What? I said I'm not paying for it. Iris, you can't be serious. Completely serious. After everything we've done for you? The audacity of that statement hung in the air. What exactly have you done for me, Dad? He sputtered. We raised you, fed you, gave you a home. The bare minimum legal requirement isn't something I owe you for. That's not fair. Neither was forgetting my 16th birthday, or missing my college graduation, or skipping my wedding, but here we are. Another silence, heavier this time. You're still holding on to that? I'm not holding on to anything, I'm just not pretending anymore. Your mother needs help. Then Cassie can help, or you can downsize, or you can apply for state assistance, but I'm not paying. Iris, I have to go. I hung up. My hand shook slightly, but my resolve didn't. Cassie called the next day. What the hell is wrong with you? Good morning to you too. Dad said you refused to help. That's correct, they need us. They needed me at 16, and 18, and 22, I don't remember you showing up then. That's not the same, it's exactly the same. They're old, Iris, they're scared. I was a child, I was also scared, nobody cared. Her voice softened, a manipulation tactic she'd learned from Mom. Please, I'm begging you, I can't do this alone. You're not alone, you have them, like you always have. I hung up. The guilt tried to creep in. Years of conditioning told me I was being cruel, selfish, unforgiving. But therapy had taught me something more important. Boundaries aren't cruelty. They're clarity. I didn't owe them forgiveness they'd never asked for. I didn't owe them support they'd never provided. I didn't owe them a relationship they'd never valued. 3 weeks later, I received a certified letter. Legal letterhead. My stomach tightened. I opened it. They were suing me for financial support under filial responsibility laws. I read it twice. Then I called my lawyer. Can they do this? I asked. Technically, some states have filial responsibility laws that require adult children to support indigent parents. We're not in one of those states. No, you're not. This won't hold up. It's a scare tactic. I wasn't scared. I was done. I drafted a response through my lawyer. Clear. Factual. Unemotional. I outlined every missed birthday, every ignored milestone, every moment they chose Cassie over me. I included copies of graduation programs they didn't attend. Wedding invitations they ignored. A timeline of 22 years of systematic neglect. And I attached a financial analysis. An itemized list of everything they'd spent on Cassie versus what they'd spent on me. The difference was staggering. Over $200,000. Cars, tuition, rent, vacations, bailouts. All for Cassie. I'd received nothing comparable. Not even a fraction. They had the money, I wrote. They chose not to spend it on me, that was their choice, this is mine. I sent it certified mail. Made sure they'd have to sign for it. Just like they'd signed for the wedding invitation they never acknowledged. 2 weeks passed in silence. Then Cassie called, her voice shaking. Did you really send them a bill? I sent them a breakdown. Of what? Of their choices. You're destroying this family. I'm not destroying anything, I'm just refusing to finance the people who forgot I existed. They didn't forget. Yes, they did, repeatedly. She was crying now. I don't know what to do. That's not my problem, Cassie. When did you become so cold? When I stopped waiting for you to notice I was hurting. I hung up. The lawsuit was dropped quietly. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just a brief email from their lawyer stating they were withdrawing the claim. I didn't respond. 6 months later, I heard through a mutual acquaintance that they'd moved into a state-funded facility. Basic care. Shared rooms. Nothing like the luxury they'd toured. Cassie was apparently struggling to visit regularly, overwhelmed by guilt and her own financial instability. I felt nothing. Not satisfaction. Not vindication. Just peace. My therapist asked during a session, "Do you think you'll ever reconcile?" No. Does that bother you? Not anymore? What changed? I thought about it. I stopped waiting for them to become the parents I needed. I accepted they never would be, and I chose myself instead. That night, David and I sat on our balcony overlooking the city. Do you regret it? He asked. Not even a little. No guilt? I did feel guilty, for a while. Then I realized guilt was just their last tool of control. I put it down. He kissed my temple. I'm proud of you. Those words, simple and sincere, meant more than any apology my parents could offer. I built a successful career, became a director at my firm. David and I traveled, made investments, created a life filled with people who chose us. I heard updates occasionally through distant relatives. Dad's health continued to decline. Mom was increasingly isolated. Cassie had moved back home, unable to afford her own place, now her parents' primary caretaker. The irony wasn't lost on me. The golden child, now burdened with the responsibility they'd always assigned to me, I didn't gloat. I simply lived. Last month, I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. Is this Iris? Yes. This is Meadowbrook Care Facility. Your father is listed as a resident here, and we're trying to reach family. I'm not involved in his care. We understand, but he's asking for. I almost laughed. I'm sure he is. He's not doing well. If you'd like to visit, I wouldn't. I'm sorry? I said I wouldn't like to visit. Is there anything else? A pause. No, ma'am, thank you for your time. I hung up. David looked at me, questioning but not judging. They want me to visit. Do you want to? No. Then don't. It was that simple. No dramatic confrontation. No final words. Just a boundary, held firm. 2 weeks later, Cassie called from a number I'd blocked multiple times. She'd figured out how to get through. He's dying, Iris. I'm sorry to hear that. That's it? That's all you have to say? What do you want me to say? That you'll come, that you'll say goodbye, that you'll forgive him. I won't. How can you be so heartless? I'm not heartless, I'm just done pretending to feel what I don't. He's your father. Biologically, yes, but he stopped being a parent a long time ago. When? When he forgot my 16th birthday, when he missed my graduation, when he chose you every single time and expected me to be fine with it. She was crying. I didn't ask for that. I know you didn't, but you accepted it, you enjoyed it, and you never once stood up for me. I was just a kid. Silence stretched between us. He's going to die without seeing you. Yes, he is. You'll regret it. No, I won't. I hung up. Dad died 3 days later. I received a text from Cassie. He's gone. I read it. Didn't respond. The funeral was small. I didn't attend. I sent flowers because social convention demanded it, but no card. Nothing personal. Cassie called after, furious. How could you not come? Easily. Everyone noticed. Good. What's that supposed to mean? It means I want them to notice. I want them to know I chose not to be there, just like he chose not to be there for me. You're punishing a dead man. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm simply not performing grief I don't feel. You're going to regret this. You keep saying that. I keep not regretting it. She hung up on me for the first time. It felt like progress. Mom lasted another year. I heard she declined rapidly after Dad died. I didn't visit. Didn't call. When she passed, I received another text from Cassie. This time, I didn't even read it. Just deleted it. I didn't attend that funeral either. After, Cassie sent one final message. I don't understand you. I responded for the first time in months. You don't have to. She never reached out again. I heard through the family grapevine that I'd been written out of the will entirely. They'd left everything to Cassie. The house, the savings, everything. It wasn't much. The house was mortgaged beyond its value. The savings were depleted. But it was symbolic. One last message that she mattered and I didn't. I didn't contest it. Didn't care. Cassie could have it all. The debt, the memories, the burden. I'd already taken what I needed. My freedom. Now, at 43, I live a life they never knew. My home is filled with laughter, warmth, people who see me. I've built relationships based on mutual respect, not obligation. I have nieces and nephews through David's family who know my name, who run to me at gatherings, who include me. I have friends who remember my birthday every year, who celebrate my accomplishments, who check in when I'm quiet. I have a life I chose, not one I was assigned. Sometimes, people ask about my family. Where are your parents? Dead. Oh, I'm sorry. I just nod. I don't explain that I'm not sorry. That their deaths didn't leave a void because they were never truly present. That I mourned the parents I needed years before I mourned the parents I had. Last week, David asked if I ever think about them. Sometimes, I admitted. And I remember that the best revenge wasn't punishing them, it was refusing to let their neglect define me. Do you think they ever realized what they did? No, people like that rarely do. Does that bother you? It used to, not anymore. He took my hand. I'm glad you chose yourself. Me too. Because in the end, that's what this was about. Not revenge in the explosive, dramatic sense, but revenge as reclamation. Taking back my worth from people who never valued it. Setting boundaries they never respected. Building a life they never supported. And walking away from a table where I was never truly given a seat. They didn't forget my 16th birthday by accident. They forgot because I didn't matter enough to remember. And years later, when they needed me, I returned the favor. Not out of cruelty. Out of clarity. They taught me my value. I simply believed them. And I decided I was worth more than they ever offered. So when their nursing home bills came due, when they expected me to step in as I always had, I did what they taught me to do. I forgot. Not by accident. By choice. And I didn't lose a single night of sleep over it. Because the woman who would have sacrificed herself to earn their love died years ago on her 16th birthday, alone in her room with a gas station cupcake. The woman I became doesn't sacrifice herself for anyone who wouldn't do the same. She knows her worth. She protects her peace. And she walks away from tables where she isn't fed. That's not revenge. That's justice. Quiet, undeniable, and entirely mine.